All right, welcome back to our program. Let's talk on this Monday morning. I'm Paul M. Well, let's see. I guess it was December that I had an opportunity to talk with Ken Trenum about the organization here in Summerside, Safe Summerside, about a plan, a whole organization, a whole movement about making the city accessible, whether it be bikes, whether it be other non-motorized vehicles, whether it be walking, but making Summerside a safe place to be able to get out and about and walk or bike or wheelchair or what have you. And the organization, which seemed to be very well organized, was making, or at least going to be making, a presentation to the City of Summerside. I believe they did do that. Of course, there's been a change in council since we talked to Ken earlier on, which would have been last year. And so we thought it would be a good time to have him come aboard again this morning on our program, Let's Talk, and talk a little bit about Safe Summerside and where they're at this particular time. So Ken's on the line with me here this morning. Good to have you along, man.
No, it's great to be here, Bob.
So let's just give people an idea again about Safe Summerside and what the organization is all about and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think you summed it up really good, Paul. Basically, we are just a group of people, and we want to encourage and advocate for safer and accessible streets in Summerside that don't rely on the motor vehicle. So like you say, it could be walking, could be cycling, could be using a wheelchair, scooters, rollerblades, whatever it is. There's just more and more research is saying that there's more benefits for active transportation in the community. And, I mean, for us, one of the key benefits, environmental, but also safety. We've got some stats from the city police, and it's just pretty disturbing that we have 51 reported collisions between pedestrians and cyclists and motor vehicles, and 3 pedestrian deaths in the last 3 years. So those are stats that really are in the background every time we present, every time we talk to people. It's just, we can do more. The City of Summerside has done wonders. It's a wonderful. There's recreation trails. But our group, we're looking at active transportation. So if you want to go get groceries, or if you want to go see go to the park, or active transportation back and forth from schools, we just want those routes to be safer.
And, I think this all kind of came around to a head as well when the City of Summerside, for instance, was making, and I guess we'll call it the St. Elners area, but certainly Greenwood Drive, that area, accessible, or at least bike lanes, which would allow people from a fairly, populated area of the City of Summerside to be able to come down towards Credit Union Place and also towards the waterfront where the walking area is down there as well. And this kind of got the ball rolling. It seemed like it anyway.
Yeah, I think so. Our group certainly recognizes any active transportation pathway in the city is a move forward. It's a move to where they want to go. And Summerside is so much forward-leaning. I mean, if you look at what they're doing with solar and wind, we are way ahead of the curve on so many areas. So yes, when Greenwood Drive was introduced as putting in the active transportation pathway, our group was thinking that that's wonderful, great to have that, but there's also other streets, maybe more high-traffic streets. And some of the high-traffic streets, we found in research, is that the high-traffic streets, there's 86%, that's where the collisions are happening. So we can make high-traffic streets more safe. We have the potential to reduce, maybe not eliminate. I mean, the goal is to eliminate, but maybe reduce. So bring that 86% of collisions on high-traffic streets, just bring that down. And it's what's so exciting, Paul, is that we actually have not presented yet to council. And tonight, this is why this phone call is so great timing, Bob. Is that tonight we're actually presenting our plan.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about firstly, before we get to the streets, and and how we can make, how busy certain streets are, because we know that, when you're looking at your Granvilles, your Centrals, your Water Streets, and other streets, obviously, your Pope Roads and the like, there are various streets that are extremely busy here in the city of Summerside. But when we talk about what you're trying to do, one of, you talk about, obviously, the footprint, the carbon footprint, more bikes as opposed to motorized vehicles, safer as well. But it has, and again, from the website that I've read, your website, there is a tremendous value in health as well on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, there's regardless of your age, but it seems that more and more as our population ages, being healthy is a staple. I mean, we want people to live a long life. We want them to live a quality life. And without your transportation, if let's say a grandparent or your parent benefits from walking X amount of minutes a day, having a clear path, a safe, clear path, and while our city does, it's wonderful on the sidewalks. Sidewalks become a challenge with people with mobility issues because walkers, they can either fall off the curb, wheelchairs, et cetera, et cetera. If you have mobility issues, if you're on a sidewalk, the risk is that you can fall into traffic. So it's a level, if it's paved and it's level and flat, then there's less of a risk that can happen. But if you're looking at other health benefits, it's just the general population, if you're looking at the way that you can become healthier, and it's even saving money, right? I mean, if you want to buy a pair of sneakers versus putting gasoline in your vehicle, it's a huge difference in cost savings, so it certainly works out well.
So, Ken, let's talk a little bit about the busiest areas, the busiest streets. I mean, I mentioned some streets there for you, and, just being a lifelong person from the area, I mean, obviously, you get to know what streets are the busiest in the city of Summerside.
That's right. You don't really need the traffic data. Traffic data is really helpful. It's an objective point of view, right? But if you're a resident of Summerside, maybe if you're a visitor of Summerside, really, you can just go on the streets and go, okay, this is a high-traffic street versus this is not a high-traffic street. And certainly, like I said, 86% of collisions are occurring in high-traffic streets. So I know we talked before about Granville, how we're trying to have a blue and red line in December, and that certainly is one way to help. Pope Road is one of the streets it's the third highest traffic street based on the median average. If you're looking at the average, it's the second highest. These stats are from the last, from 2010 to present, so taken from the City of Summerside website. And it does not have a shoulders. And with 12% of the collision of the city is a concern. If you look at, I can endlessly go on and on, but I'll stop myself at some point. But Granville and Ryan, if you want to call it Granville and Ryan, it's more Granville and Ryan than Granville and Pope, but it's kind of where Pope and Ryan collide, right? Yeah. It is by far the intersection. It's 12% there's key areas, the 12% of collisions is happening at that intersection. So if we can develop, and we have developed a plan, a strategy, that we can make the key areas where we know there's collision and safety risks. We know people are being hit, pedestrians or cyclists, well, people on mobility scooters, I suspect that we have. If we can make those safer, and what we found, which we didn't really know, we just kind of put the numbers together. It's research, that's what it is. But the thing that really helps is that of those high traffic streets, so we take the 10 most high traffic streets in Summerside, and we look what has a shoulder and what street doesn't. In our brain, we can kind of think, okay, well, I know Granville doesn't. I know McEwen does. I know South does. Great. If we look at the stats, what we find is that of those high traffic streets, 88% of them where the collisions happened have no shoulder. So the majority of collisions not only happen on high traffic streets, they happen on those high traffic streets that don't have a shoulder. So all of these streets we know, they have a sidewalk. The challenge is people are getting hit on the sidewalk. Cars, people are getting hit at crosswalks, and people are getting hit at intersections. It's having a sidewalk, of course, is needed, is necessary, but we're finding that it's the shoulder of the road. It seems to be a missing ingredient, maybe, that if we're able to create a shoulder, then it's going to create protection. And our plan is to create a protected shoulder on high-traffic streets. And so you'd have a couple parking stops, the concrete parking stops, and a boulder just to warn vehicles and stuff. And that's a strategy that we can protect the bike lane, we can protect the AT pathway lane, and making it safe for whatever vehicles. I know for when I see the mobility scooters scooting around, it's just because they're not on the sidewalk, they're on the shoulder. If the road has a shoulder, I get so nervous. And the idea is that our active transportation pathways will be accessible for those people who are on mobility scooters, and it will save them lives. We've had two collisions with mobility scooters in the history of Summerside that we're aware of anyway. One was an injury and one was reported death. So so we're passionate about the safety as well. We're trying to keep things safe here, yes.
And I mean, we're not even talking children as yet, are we? Because I mean, when we see schools either go in or go out, twice a day. Certainly with elementary schools like with Parkside and Elm Street and up at Athena, and then the high schools. We're not even talking about the kids yet, are we?
No, and a part of our plan, it addresses that because we were calling it an all ages and all abilities network plan. So it's all ages. So we want to get from young to old and all abilities. So pretty self-explanatory. But in terms of the schools, what our research has found is that we were calling it the three schools, the big three, safe protector, is that the connection between Elm Street, SIS, and Parkside, it's 12% of collisions. You're shooting a theme is that some of this can be rectified and supported because the collisions are coming in at about 10%. And if we can eliminate or reduce these 10% collisions, I mean, the math is that there'll be less and less collisions. So within these three streets, there's 12% collisions that have happened, and equally 3 pedestrians and 3 cyclists have been, and one has been fatality on this route. So if we're able to create a safe network to get people to school, and literally we've done our research, and I'm regularly on this route, and I've witnessed children bicycling this route that we're recommending because they're viewing it, the users are viewing it as the safest route for AT traffic. So we're kind of borrowing a page from the children and how they actually get back and forth to school on that one, I guess.
Right. I'm lots of questions. Number one,
sure.
and you're well researched. That's what I like about it. But where do we sit in terms of you talked about the percentages and the collisions and the like. Where do we sit compared to other jurisdictions that you know of?
Yeah, that's a great question. The data that we have is actually harder to come by. We're really fortunate in Summerside. We're a small city. The police force are so supportive of this initiative. To be able to get detailed information on the number of collisions that happen is a little rare. What I do know in terms of Canada, the fatality rate from collisions is 5.4, right? And I know we're at 6.4. So we're above the national average on fatality rates. I do know, now this is just, because stats are so hard, there's not a top Canadian, but there is an American. The U.S. will give this as the top street times of pedestrian fatalities. And pedestrian fatality rates are based on the number of percentages of people who have died as a result of motor vehicles based on 100,000 population. So it always seems to go back to the 100,000. Under that, but we base it on that. So if we look at the U.S., we would be the 6th worst pedestrian city.
Okay.
So that tells me a significant amount. And I mean, I know with the small population, there's the rounding errors, right? I mean, if you're a small population, and one will be a lot. And yes, that is true.
Sure.
But the challenge is this has been 3 years in a row, right?
Yeah.
So it stops being just a one of.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 years, there's been a pedestrian death. So it to me, it stops being it's just a one of. Yeah. And I think if we can just look at what's involving some of these deaths, what's involving some of the collisions, because it could easily be more than 3. Yeah. And that's the point. So we've done a lot of research and we developed this plan to support the research. So like when we go tonight to council, Paul, I'm so excited because I think we have a really solid plan that speaks, and we have, I mean, we submitted it to the city, and there's 35 pages of support. From the public school branch to the Association of Community Living, from Boys and Girls Clubs, Generation XX, and the list goes on and on and on. It seems to be, no matter how many different organizations we've approached, no one said, no, this is a terrible idea, right? Everybody that we've talked to said, this is just something that's needed. And yes, we know it's expensive. But we're proposing a 15-year plan. We don't expect things to happen overnight. But I think when you're looking at the safety and the health, and everything's tied together, right? If you're looking at the environment, okay, this helps. If you're looking at the safety, this helps. You're looking at people who are finding it hard to manage financially, heading out to transportation routes where they can reach their point and maybe save on gas, or they don't have a vehicle. It works in so much, and then socially, if you're out in the community more, you have such a more sense of belonging to the community. And when you feel you belong to the community, you want to interact with that community and the people in a different way. So I can't tell you how many times I bike with a group of kids in the summer, and we take the time to stop. I hear stories that people tell me, and it's stories that enrich our lives and enriches our community. And everybody who's with in our group is it's a wonderful opportunity, I guess, to experience life not behind a wheel, I mean, a driving wheel, if you know what I mean, maybe on 2 wheels, or even 4 wheels. It's a big piece of the puzzle, and yeah.
All right. Well, keep in mind. I'm going to go back to an idea of cost, and what we're going to what we have to do. But my question here now is, and I see you. I've seen you over the years. I've had to stop at the highway and watch you and I don't know 30 kids.
It must feel like it,
shuttle across the road and making sure that people are safe. Why? What is it? Now I know you're talking shoulder. You need physically you're saying that there are some things that are needed, but what is it as well that brings about a collision between a pedestrian, a biker, or a motor vehicle? What types of things happen that we get a collision, Ken?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to I'm just going to say education, for lack of a better. But if someone's distracted, if being understand that if you're distracted, and we're seeing more and more drivers now who are distracted, right, for any number of reasons. That if you're not paying attention to the road, you're not paying attention to the pedestrian who's really small, doesn't take up much space, right? And then you're not paying attention to the surroundings, and that's where it happens. Then you have the AT user who also may not be paying attention, may not be following the rules of the road. So it's really a two-pronged. Like, certainly our organization is not saying, we're not laying blame. Some people have thought, well, geez, when they see our collision map, they think, oh, we're blaming the motorists. It's no, this is a point of objective observation and data that this is what's happening, and at some points it could be that maybe the pedestrian walked in front of a vehicle when a vehicle was coming, for example, right? Or someone didn't look both ways and across the street. These could happen in your education moments. Other times, a vehicle will drive on the sidewalk and hit somebody, which we know it's I would guess anyway. You're distracted, you're doing something that nobody would. It's not the intent of anybody, right, to hit somebody.
No.
It happens, and certainly having an education plan to support that. So at one point is the infrastructure, but having that education to say, if I could say, Paul, that how many people are getting hit and dying in Somerset because vehicles are backing up. So what if we can develop an education plan in Summerside, and how can we do this? And maybe it's social media, maybe it's whatever means, radio ads, who knows? But reminding people, when you're backing up, take an extra look. It could be something just like that, and keep it in. If we have signs, I mean, it's kind of our next step. So we have our plan, but we also want to develop an education plan. Because infrastructure, yes, infrastructure is 100% going to help. But if we can develop an education plan, because when I see that people are getting back into, it's well, you're not seeing, you're not looking this, then you're taking a second look to make sure is the person walking, okay, well, I'll stop.
You're absolutely right. I'll tell you that I for a long time I lived on Granville Street, and backing out of Granville Street, where I lived, and there were times when I might have not seen someone who was walking down the street. And
sure. It's very easy, and we're all in that case, Paul, right?
Yeah. And I know, and so I understand what you're talking about, and talking about education. I'm going to ask the other thing too is, there might be a feeling. I'm wondering if there's a feeling out there, like whether a motorist or whether a pedestrian, where they may not have enough respect for the other person as well. In other words, if I'm driving my car, I might not have enough respect for, let's say, a pedestrian or a biker or what have you, and maybe work the other way as well. And this really has to, I guess, feed into what you're talking about education-wise?
I think so, but I also think it touches on the culture. I do think it touches on the culture that, and our PEI-18 network plan, which is a phenomenal document. I highly recommend anybody get your hands on it. It is draft, but it's developed from the province, and it's a fabulous piece. It actually talks about the goals is prioritizing active transportation over single occupant vehicles. Because single occupants always, it's just the way it's been. And it's not just for PEI, it's definitely in Canada, most of Canada, I would say, right? It's North American experience. So that's just the culture. But certainly, Paul, to speak to, I can, whenever you hear you talking, I can remember I'm biking on the road, and I can hear someone from your apartment building yelling at me, get off the road, bikes aren't for vehicles, right? And they're in their apartment building, like they're not even a motor vehicle. Yeah. So I think that just speaks to culture, and we all have biases. Right, we all do. Right, we all have biases. But I think when you combine education and you combine that, if we can create, I think changing culture is a big piece, but it's a long-term vision. So if we can create just the idea that we need to mutually respect one another, and it's going to help and progress toward a just and fair and safe and environmentally friendly way to get from point A to point B, that's great. But yeah, there definitely will be people who don't, have the same respect for other people.
Yeah.
And it could be a motorist versus a cyclist, or vice versa, or right. So that's a very valid, very true, and it's a matter of fact, for sure.
All right. Well, let's go back to what I have two more questions, and
Sure.
first I want to. You talked about long term, and of course you talk long term because, like you said, it's expensive. It's not going to be cheap to do this, but important to do this for a whole lot of reasons. So when you're talking expense, what are you talking about? And in years, what are you talking about?
Sure. We're envisioning a 15-year. So if we're looking at, there's at this point, there's many different integral ingredients, right? But if we're looking at the schools, we're looking at seniors, we're looking at the key regions in the city, and these are just key, right? That they need the help. We're looking at supporting and our youngest to our oldest, and everybody in between. Total costs. Now, bless the City of Summerside staff. They gave me this data while they're in budget talks, while the staff are running off their feet, and this is just a really, really small piece. I recognize that. We recognize that active transportation is a small piece of the entire gamut of things the city has to worry about and prioritize, right? But I get that. I have a lot of respect for the fact that the staff were able to do this, and I know that they were maxed out. So I appreciate that. They gave me the stats for Greenwood Drive, so we know in the 3 years that they've been developing how much that was costing per meter. That's just key. That we can. So what we've done as a group, we've provided a range of costs. Because we certainly aren't experts, but we can go to what the city has paid before and say, this is what they paid in 2020, 2021, and 2022. And so we gave them a range. So the low range of that, Paul, is 6.8 million. Okay? And the high range is 15.6 million. So the low range would be what we paid in 2020 for Greenwood Drive, and the high range is what we paid last year for Greenwood Drive. So, I mean, as we all know, I don't know if costs go down any, but
like you say, that's over a long term. That's over a, like you say, a 15-year period and the like, and your reasoning is that it does a number of things here. It helps the, number one, helps the footprint, and we're all about that here in the City of Summerside. The carbon footprint, and we're all about the opportunity to, be as active as possible, and who doesn't want to be safe, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. I think, and that's why I think when we talked about, we introduced this to people, it's like, I had someone say, Ken, who would not support this? Like, who wouldn't? And I smiled and said, I just love hearing that, because it's common sense to so many people. It's like it's a bloodline to people. It just makes it so much sense, and it's like, okay, yes, we need that. No one's saying we don't. No one's saying it wouldn't be a purpose. It kind of comes down to priorities and money, right? Like it will cost money. It will cost money. But yeah, long term, it can help. But I definitely want to say, Paul, that a key caveat for us to start is the Cycling Without Age program. I think I talked about that before. Yeah. But it's just an opportunity. And so we're really hoping that the city will as a part of not only our plan, but kind of an addition to our plan, which is support the safe infrastructure to get people. We're doing a pilot program that'll reach out to Wedgwood and Andrews of Park Hill, and as well as community connections, and which all in all is only 300 meters of fresh pavement that needs to be down, just 300 meters. Yeah. To get this program, and then we end up reaching the clients and the residents, and you can take them for bicycle rides, safe connections, just get them to the Confederation Trail and get them to the Baywalk just to enjoy and build that relationship. So it's just, that's another thing that when I talk about what we're doing, that's a key component, because it's the quality of life. And when I met with some of the partners and didn't deliver the program, when I asked about the length of, like, how long does someone live there before they pass? Yeah. And the average was 3 years. Yeah. And then I was told, well, all the work you're doing is great, but the work you're doing, people might die before they get a chance to experience it. And it broke my heart. It still sticks with me. So they say, like, sooner. Whatever you can do, Ken, whatever you can do to make it happen sooner, is that they get to experience this as their last quality of life, one of their last quality of life moments before they pass. And gee, like, as a community and as a person, like, we can do this, and we can do this. And
so you'll be making presentation tonight to City Council.
I will, Paul, and I'm asking people, anybody who's interested, if they want to show up and just show support, they don't got to say anything. Just come there, because I know, bless the city's heart and the staff, they've heard me talk endlessly about this, but if we do have a packed council room and people smiling, this is the most historic and positive, euphoric moment that I'll say that for the active transportation community and for the people. It's been in a while that we can bring substantial change, and yeah, if they show up and they're smiling and it's a short meeting, because after we're done a 15-minute presentation, council will probably have a few questions, and we can just leave. We won't stay for the whole bit, and we can just take some deep breaths and hopefully celebrate just some positive results, we hope.
All right, well, I'll follow up with you after that meeting, okay?
That's awesome, Paul. Appreciate that.
Okay, man, thanks for talking with me this morning, and enjoy your presentation tonight.
Oh, I will, man. Thanks so much for reaching out, Paul.
Okay,
take care.
Bye. Ken Trenum, then. Safe Summerside, the organization looking to make our streets here in the city of Summerside safer than they are right now. So making a presentation to Summerside City Council tonight.